Well, welcome back to the podcast, Successful Thinkers. Today, I have something super exciting for you. Not only is he the founder of Stage Time, not only does he have a podcast that he co-hosts, and that is Unforgettable Presentations. Not only is he a world champion of public speaking, but he's also a dear friend of mine and the author of his new book, super proud, 17 Minutes to Your Dream. And that's what we're going to talk about today because Darren LaCroix has tapped into my dream world. And as you know, I'm continually talking about dreams and purpose. This is the heart of my work. And he tapped into my heart here. So welcome, Darren. Thank you so very much for being on the show.
Hey, thanks for having me. It's a thrill to be the first guy too. Wow.
Yeah.
What an honor.
First guy. We love it. So I had to be very selective of the first guy for the show, right? But it's really more so just finding that person who really speaks the same language as my listeners speak. And that's really around breaking all boundaries. You can do anything. And you are living proof of that. You are the epitome of making it happen. I like to say that we don't create our life first and then live it. Instead, we create our life by living it. And you're teaching about living your dreams and really designing that and living it. And so I can't wait to hear more about what inspired you to do this, what you're up to, and just some insight for the listeners on how they can apply what you have in the book to their lives. So
awesome. Well, hey, thanks for having me here. I'm thrilled. I've known you for years. I'm a big fan, Jolene fan, #Jolene fan. Thanks for having me. And this is what I do. I can't not. I just don't have the ability to not do this. It's crazy because some days I shake my head and say, what am I thinking? And then people around me say, what are you thinking? And I want to think like Jolene.
I get that all the time. What are you thinking? I don't know. I'm just doing it, right?
Yep.
And that's really the heart of it. So tell me about your book. I love the book. Loved. And for everyone here, I'm texting Darren after I finish, and Darren's going to run through, but I'm texting him my results after reading it, because if you can get me fired up about something, which, well, I take everything to the umpteenth level. I don't just, let me see if this works. Instead, I'm like in. So I'm super excited. And I dedicated a bunch of time kind of following his process, really loved it. And
Nice.
So tell us about it. Tell us what inspired you to write the book first.
Well, one of the things that I learned early on was dreams are not convenient. Dreams are not convenient. And Jolene, you know my story, but if you don't know my story, when I was 8 years old, I loved people who could make people laugh. My cousin, my brother, we would be at a holiday function. I remember Jolene being 8 years old, and I'm sitting at the kids' table at this big Polish Thanksgiving, and you got kawumpkis, pierogies. You could smell it. It's just beautiful. My grandma is a great cook. And my cousin was recapping Saturday Night Live skits, and he's got everybody laughing. In fact, I have twin aunts that when they laugh in harmony, and it's like, waff, 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 waff. You can't not laugh. And so I remember being 8 years old, just being mesmerized by the fact that my cousin could say something in a certain way and bring joy would erupt in the room. I was in awe of that. I wanted that myself. So I stood up as an 8-year-old kid. I threw out a punchline and I hushed my whole family. I embarrassed myself. They stopped laughing. I slid back in my seat and I told myself, I will never, ever try to be funny again. And it was painful. And of course, my brother, being my big brother, piled on, like, dude, you're just not funny. Don't even try. And he was right. I wasn't. So I suppressed that. Okay, so what is my gift? What is my jam, if you will? So I thought business. I love business. I went to business school. I went for the American dream. I bought a Subway sandwich shop and got a loan. I don't know how I got a loan right after college, but I had my college loans. Now I have my business loan, $60,000. And in 6 short months, I took that $60,000 debt and I doubled that debt. I turned Subway Sandwich Shop into a nonprofit organization. And I literally, they had opened another Subway right down the road from me, and it took all my profits off my top. Not all the income, but all the profits. Well, I couldn't pay myself, so I had to get a day job in order to pay my employees so I didn't default on my loan. So here I am. Finally, I was able to sell it at a loss. And my buddy gave me this motivational tape of a man named Brian Tracy. So I'm driving down the road, and these motivational tapes, I'm like, this is encouraging. This feels good. I'm listening over and over. And he asked a question. He said, what would you dare to dream if you knew you wouldn't fail? I was like, if I wouldn't fail, what? I thought I'd be a comedian. How cool would that be? But that little voice of reason on my shoulder said, but that's not you. You're not funny. But that wasn't the question. The question was, what would you dare to dream if you knew you wouldn't fail? And I went back to that 8-year-old kid and I said, look, I live at home with mom and dad. I have school loans. I have what do I have to lose? What if this guy is right? So I just said, you know what? I have to try it once. It wasn't a dream at this point, Jolene. It wasn't a dream. It was just, I couldn't live with the regret of wondering what if.
Yeah.
When you can look at your life and just say, what if? And you realize that there could be a regret later in life that can stop you. Like that regret can haunt you, I should say. I just couldn't live with that. And so I went to a little comedy club, not being funny, not having courage, being shy and naive. I walked up to the comedian. I said, hi, I want to try this. What do I need to do? And he asked me a question. He said, are you funny? I said, no. He said, good. I'm like, good? What do you mean good? And I didn't get it. I didn't understand it. And so he said to me, okay, 2 things. Number 1, you got to get the book. You know, step 1 in successful thinking is find the person who's been there and done that. How did they think to get there? So that makes sense. So I went and got the book. Getting a book on stand-up comedy wasn't even in my radar screen. He said, number 2, you need to go to open mic nights and watch other people just starting out. Well, duh, of course. Don't compare yourself to someone at the top. Compare yourself to someone else who's just starting out. And so a couple of days later, I went to a little comedy club called Stitches in Boston, and I watched people go up for their first time. And ladies, they were horrible. I thought I could do that. It actually inspired me. So I studied. I went every Sunday night to be re-inspired. It was April 26, 1992. I brought my friends with me. I said, this is just the one night I'm going to do this, but you make sure I go up there. Because Jolene, my whole life, I have been the mommy's boy. I had been the person that everyone else did things for because they felt bad for him. And so I told my friends, I said, I always chicken out. But not tonight. I don't care if I cry or scream or kick or whine. You make sure I go up there because I am never doing this again. I go up on stage. I'm bombing. I have it on videotape, Jolene. I actually just showed a clip of it at the convention I was speaking at yesterday in Florida. Anyway, I go up. I'm bombing. I'm looking at my notes. I have no idea and no reason to be up there other than I chose to. That's a big thing is the choice. I chose to. You can choose to do anything. Doesn't matter what anyone else says. And so I'm telling this joke and I'm so nervous that what I'm saying and what I'm doing is just not in sync. You know, your body isn't in sync with your thoughts. And so I say this rocket, I'm talking about a rocket launch in my hometown, which started modern day rocketry. I said the rocket took off and it went vertically, but I did horizontal with my arm. And I just said, shoot. Well, it's not the actual word, Jolene, that I used that night, but I said, shoot. And everybody laughed. And I'm like, what? Why are you laughing? That's not where you're supposed to laugh, but I'll take it. I remember walking off stage, Jolene, and one of the other comics was actually trying to console me. He said, "Don't worry, man. It's just your first time." And I remember thinking, "Don't worry. Did you see what I did? I got to laugh. I can do this. I don't care if it was a mistake." And that thinking that you can take what your one little success and multiply it may take time. But I said, I don't care how long it takes. I'm going to figure this out, because that felt good. It was like a drug, like an instant positive addiction. Everyone thought I bombed. I looked at it differently. I got a laugh. And no one told me I could do that.
It's like Dumb and Dumber, which is my favorite movie ever. That's really sad, but it's my favorite movie. You know, it's like, oh, so there is a chance.
I mean, there's a chance. Absolutely.
I love it.
And so, I mean, just to fast forward to the book and why I was told by my mentors, the cool thing is when I opened my Subway, I had an ego. I just came out of business school. I thought, successful thinking, I thought I knew better than the system. Even though I invested 60 grand in a system, my ego thought I knew better. So all the things they said to do, I didn't do. And I found another way. And I no, that's stupid. I'm going to do it my way. Why? Where am I drawing from? A textbook? Come on. Yeah. But it was the lesson I needed. So when I started stand up, the best thing I had going for me is I knew that I didn't know.
Yep.
I knew that I didn't know. And so as a result of that, they said, any day you don't get on stage, my mentors, is a day that you don't grow. And I thought, what? What are you talking about? Don't I have to be good? They said, no, you have to go up to get good. So the key is going up. The key is failing. So I didn't understand it, but I followed their advice. And so that's why my online university is Stage Time University, because the number one habit, what I needed to do to grow, was stage time. So my license plate here in Las Vegas is stage time, to remind me that habit. We know what it is. It's usually that thing we don't want to do. Yep. So I come to find out, I found speaking. I found another place, the Toastmasters, as a place to make mistakes. I'm like, they're going to clap every time I speak? What? I didn't get that in my early days of comedy. So when I saw the value of Toastmasters as a place to make mistakes, I immediately joined 4 Toastmaster clubs to quadruple my failure rate. And so because of that, I was able to grow and get better and get breakthroughs. So fast forward to 2001, I found myself in a speech contest for Toastmasters called the World Championship of Public Speaking. And I won. I had a great coach. I prayed a lot. That was a big part of my strategy, is praying. And I was so fortunate. But the cool part is that little kid who wanted to bring joy got his goal, got his dream. And so the reason I wrote the book is I looked at that journey, that process. I now look at my new big, crazy, ridiculous dream, as I call it. And I say, okay, what worked from that process that I can apply to this process? And the biggest thing is that consistency. Because if somebody's got a dream, the 2 biggest problems are, number 1, doubt. So they never take step 1. And I thank God that I was at such a low point in my life that I had nothing to lose. That's what got me to do it. And then number 2 is momentum, or lack thereof. And if you have momentum, you'll overcome the doubt. You'll overcome the self-questioning, the imposter syndrome. Momentum. So stage time turned into now working on my next big, crazy, ridiculous dream is 17 minutes at least a day.
Yeah. And so it's funny. So for the listeners who are not familiar with the World Champion of Public Speaking and your speech, right? I mean, I think about your speech, and it was one of those aha, life-changing moments for me as a speaker, watching that speech, because it's freaking hilarious. It's brilliant. And I know you got coached on what to do and how to make it more effective. But you come off as authentic. And I truly believe that when you did this, when you should have done this, that was you, right? It's and so that authenticity is, what makes you as a speaker, number one, engaging and endearing because you're just you. Right.
Thank you. Yeah.
And it works. It works because you're real and you're authentic and you bring it. And so we're going to make sure that we put in the show notes that speech, because I want people to be able to go in and look and see what I'm talking about. I mean, it's the opening of the speech that just, it just does it. Well, and it's so darn good.
Thank you. Two great things on what you just said. So number one, that one laugh I got that first night at Stitches, it's because as you're saying, for 1 second, it wasn't the mistake that I made. It was my reaction to the mistake. Yes. Where I just said, oh, shoot, because I knew I screwed up. I forgot about the audience. I forgot about my next line. I didn't care about the strangers. I just became real. And that's when they connected with me. That's just to point out and highlight what you're saying. And then number two.
That's why we connect with this.
Yep.
Right?
Absolutely.
Because you're just saying, I screwed up. And now look.
Yep. And then the speech that you're talking about, ouch, anyone can find it on YouTube or in the show notes. Check it out. But it was not just the coach coaching me, but he got at the beginning to write the speech. He got me to go deeper in me. And he asked a question, which is a great question for creating any speech or any presentation. He said, choose a child in your life. I don't have any children, so I chose my eldest nephew, Michael. And he said, if you were going to die tomorrow, what one lesson that you learned from your life would you want to pass on to your nephew? What? And I thought I was writing a speech. No, you got to find the speech that's in your heart. So he said, don't answer that. Just take 2 or 3 days. And I kept writing. He said, write down every single lesson, and then you got to choose one. And it became the working title to Ouch, the name of the speech, turned into or started off. The working title was Willing to Fail. You can learn anything in your life and you're willing to fail, because that's the example of my life and of my journey. And I always say that God didn't give me the ability to make people laugh. He gave me the persistence to learn how.
Yes. I love that. I love that. And so you go into the book, you fast forward from, speaking and stage time and all of this, and you've been wanting to write this book. So take us on that journey and what people can learn from this book. We did do an episode, a few episodes back. We talked about, I work on the Dream Initiative all the time. So I have my dream journal here, and I encourage people to storm out, dream storm 100 dreams. And what happens, and when we do this in the workplace, it does amazing things, just ridiculously crazy things. But you can do it as an individual, as a couple. I mean, it changes lives. And just to be able to get into that dream space, I really want to, kind of hear, because you very much touched on a lot of what I believe to be true, and have watched the concepts change people's lives just by living their dreams and going after their dreams. And I love the approach that you take to helping people come up with just that game plan, which as a coach, that's what I'm all about. Let's come up with the action plan that we need. Speaking of action plan, and speaking of Brian Tracy, had to back up here. You've got Brian Tracy here endorsing this book on the back. I'm like, what the heck? Good job.
Well, I made him famous in my world championship speech. I got to share the stage with him. So he knows me. I know him because I've helped make him famous. That doesn't hurt. And I just asked.
That's good.
I asked.
That's good. So yeah, walk us through this, because I love action plans. I love when people can make traction in their lives. And I know you're doing it on stage time every single day.
Yep.
But this is at another level.
Yeah. So I'm grabbing something to make an example here. So So here I am, I world champion in public speaking, and 2012. So 11 years later, I'm speaking to this group in Canada, and I do my normal speech and people love it and they're happy and they clap, and I do a Q&A, and this kid in the fourth row raises his hand. He's like 23 years old. He says, that's great, but what are you working on now? Great question. How dare we try to motivate and inspire others if we're not working on our next dream? If you've accomplished your dream, okay, start searching for the next one, because it is in your journey. People are watching you. Your kids are watching. Your grandkids are watching what you do. They hear what you say, but that goes in and out. But what you do sticks. So what was my big, crazy, ridiculous dream? That year, I was sitting at a little booth in Las Vegas at a pub called BJ's Restaurant. And I'm there with some of my speaker buddies. We're doing a mastermind meeting. And one of my mentors goes around the table and he asks, okay, what's your big, crazy, ridiculous dream? If we're going to do a mastermind, let's go for broke. And so he goes around the table and he's coming to me, and I feel myself shrinking down. Like, why am I shrinking? Why am I shrinking? And he got to me and I started hemming and hawing. I said, well, I always loved true life movies and biopics. And the movie Rudy is what kept me going in 93 when it came out. I kept watching it. I was inspired by the character. And what if they made, I've been telling my story around the world to Toastmasters, 44 international cities, every state. But what if they made a movie about my story? What if we took what I'm teaching and turn it into a movie? Because I love movies. But who am I to have a movie made about me? My mentor, Mike, slammed his hands on the table, got right in my face, and he said, who are you not to?
Yep.
And I say to you listening, who are you not to have your dream? How dare you get it, not pursue it, and inspire the people around you by that pursuit? Now, I don't know how to write a movie. I don't know how to find somebody to write a movie. I had no idea how. See, that's the thing. When we're kids, we dream like rivers flow. And well-meaning adults train the dream out of us. They teach us to be realistic. Nobody in my life said, hey, go for it. You got a dream, go for it. They said, no, you're crazy, you're stupid, that's not for you. That's not cool. Now, fortunately, the motivational tapes and the people I ended up surrounding myself with, as you teach, Jolene, like the thinking is affected by the people around you. I forced myself around those people and I pushed away the other people that were affecting me, that were putting in those little doubts. So if you have a dream, like, don't worry about the how. I didn't know how. Right. I had no idea how. I had met Rudy Rudiger from the movie, and I had learned that he found the guy who wrote Hoosiers, Anthony Pizzo, and he stalked him. Not that I promote stalking, but he stalked him in order to get him to create the movie. So I thought, well, that's on my radar screen. So let me go to Hollywood. I live in Las Vegas. I drove out there. I did a Toastmasters speech to write off my trip. And then and there was a woman in the audience, and she looked vaguely familiar. And after my presentation, somebody said, do you know who that is? And I said, no, she doesn't. She looks vaguely familiar. And she's asked me not to use her name. But she was a Hollywood superstar. She was a supermodel, and she was on a famous TV show. And I walked up to her. I said, hi, my name is Darren. She goes, I know your name. I just saw your speech. I said, I just need advice. I don't want you to do anything for me. I'm not looking for anything. Just need advice. I want to take that story and turn it into a movie. What do I do? And she said, well, my husband and I produce Hallmark movies. Whoa. Okay. Good source. Experience. First time I asked a comedian, experience. That was a good source. Consider your source. Where you're getting the ideas from, where you're getting your thinking from, where you're getting your strategy from. So I talked to her, and she said, I read scripts all day long. The biggest problem I see is structure. Interesting. She said, look, if somebody buys your script, they're going to change it, but you need to get the structure points right so you can get credit. You need to write it. I'm like, I don't know how to write a script. I'm trying to just find the person to write it. you are a good writer. You need to write the script. She said, go get this book. I'm like, all right. I went back to that comedy club in 92 where he said, go get the book. She said, go get the book, Screenwriter's Workbook by Sid Field. And so I immediately went and got the book. And she said, if you ever finish it, give it to me and I will take it, check it out. I will read it for you. Her business card still sits on my desk to this day. So how? I need a strategy. I didn't know where to start. I didn't want to write it, but now I go and I find people. And Jolene, this part wasn't in the book, but about a month later, Patricia Fripp, a mentor, a legend in the speaking world. She called me up, and she's British, if you're listening to this, and she loves when I do her little impressions. And she says, Darren, some of my speaker writer friends and coaches are coming to Las Vegas to do a summit. Would you care to join me? And I was like, well, actually, the timing's quite good. I said, who's going to be there? And she lists a name. I never heard of any of them. They're screenwriting coaches. Why would I? And then she said, oh, there's one more. His name, I think, is Sid Field. What? The guy that wrote the book? Yeah. I'm there.
That's how this
here's
works.
Someone who gave me advice from experience.
Yep.
Okay, I got the book, and then I needed to sit at his feet, sit at the feet of the masters, and that's what I did. So that was kind of a little God wink in my life, and there has been so many more. And I'm on version 18 of the script. It took me several years to finish it. Now I'm trying to sell it to Hollywood. Mm-hmm. But my point of this book is what worked before that I could give to people, give to my students, and just be transparent along the way. I mean, Jolene, in the book, I talk about screwing up my business and literally putting my dream aside because I couldn't even pay my employees. I got to that point. And so I just feel transparency is the best way. So the strategy, what I decided to do is stage time in the comedy world. But whatever your dream is, I want to make this strategy work for anyone. What I didn't know was what to do. What I realized my question was wrong. All I need to ask myself is, what do I do today?
Yes.
What do I do today? So my new strategy, when I dove back in 2021, I pulled out my cell phone. I turned on the stopwatch and I said, every day I'm going to do 17 minutes at least. My goal is to get caught up and do more. So I hit start. I focus. I don't know what I'm going to do. What am I going to do? Okay, who else wrote a movie like mine or produced it? I need to get it in front of them. Let me research. And I go in and that counts. That's getting me closer.
Yes.
The book, whatever your dream is, the book or books on that area will give you ideas. The strategy is that consistency every single day. And people always ask, why 17 minutes? That's another story I'll get into if you want. But the short of it is 17 minutes is long enough to make some progress, but short enough to commit to every single day.
Yep. Then
when I'm done, I hit stop. I take a screenshot and I send it to two accountability buddies. And then, Jolene, I'm a numbers geek. So I start a spreadsheet and I track my minutes every single day.
Yep.
And I always say, you don't know which minutes will matter.
Yes. Yes. And I'm a huge, huge proponent of that. Number one, I teach my clients to focus on that one thing. What's going to move the needle, right? But consistency is the key to anything. And so when we build in action plans that have these achievable goals, very realistic goals, and they're small chunks of time. Because if you can excuse proof anything, aren't your dreams worth being excuse proof? Right? We say we want something, yet then this came up, that came up. But isn't your dream the most important thing? And it doesn't take much if you keep at it. And what it does is it fuels. Once you start seeing that progress, it fuels the excitement and the passion. And even when it sucks and when it's hard, it fuels that. I did it anyway, even though I didn't feel like it. And you have progress because your speech, your speech is an example of that. And that is, you fall forward. You're closer than you were. If you fall on your freaking face, right? You're not back there standing up. You're forward. And it's so important to make that traction. And that's what I love about this book. Few things that stuck out. You talked about, and I'll kind of wrap this up, but sawgrass moments. So the experiential touches when things, ow, ooh, got to remember that, right? For you, business failed. For you, family went silent. For you, also the critics. But despite all of that, you took that and you used that for your learning. Falling on your face, you use that, right? That was the key to you winning. You talk in the book about the 8-year-old self, like you talked about, in your success writing this speech, what you want to leave with that young child, right? But for yourself, what would you tell your 8-year-old self? What would you tell your 80-year-old self? Being the CEO of your dream. Love that. I mean, these are all things that I really want my listeners to experience by picking up your book, because it is so important to just have a super simple game plan to move forward with whatever you want to achieve. And I have to say that, I sent you my screenshot last week, put in over an hour, and I'm consistent anyway, but you had me all fired up, and I'm like, I'm timing myself, right? I'm going to do it anyway, but I'm timing myself. And so I timed myself, and I felt so really good about it. And I ended up picking up this massive contract because of putting in that time. And of course, it was in my dream book. So I cross things off my dream list. I'm not even working on half of them. It's because I have put it out there and they're there. Other things I do focus on, but some of them that are kind of, that'll be maybe 3 months down the road, I'll get to that one. They just kind of happen, and things happen. Somebody pops into your life. You're speaking somewhere and somebody hears something, right? It's continually happening in my life. And it's not because I'm lucky, you're lucky. It's because we're creating our life, and we're creating those opportunities, not necessarily luck. I mean, it could be luck. It's all right. Luck's okay. I'll take it.
As the old adage goes, the harder I work, the luckier I get. It's just a truth. And Jolene, one of the things that I really want your listeners to hear is the subtitle of the book is How to Get the Breakthroughs You Need. Yes. If you have a dream, there's something between you and your dream. Yep. And you would probably agree that there's a few breakthroughs you need to get there. Got it. Me too. Yes. So the key to this strategy, and like you're saying, is all of a sudden something happens. But there's the times of plateaus that we don't seem like we're making progress. And that's why I say, look, when you get a breakthrough. So, for example, January 18th, I did 38 minutes and I was studying like scripts like mine. And so Soul Surfer, I was looking at the movie Soul Surfer, a biopic, inspirational, motivational, little God in it as well. So I'm studying that and I'm like, okay, who directed that? Because if I'm going to get mine produced, it's got to be in front of somebody who does a movie like that. So I look it up, Sean McNamara. I'm like, Sean McNamara? Okay, let me go on the International Movie Database website. Anybody can do this, imdb.com. And I looked down, sure enough, 2011 Soul Surfer. And I was like, I wonder what else he's done. And I'm looking up, nothing, never heard of it. I get to the top and it says, Butch Bradley live from Las Vegas. It's like, what? Butch Bradley used to open for me back in my early days of stand-up in Boston. He has his own show in Vegas where I live. We're friends. I was actually in the theater when they filmed his Amazon Prime that Sean McNamara directed and produced. I was like, what? I I didn't know what to do. So I called up Butch. I'm like, Butch, you know Sean McNamara? He says, yeah, as a matter of fact, I just came back from filming a scene with Dennis Quaid for his new movie Reagan, which is coming out next February. And he said, I was in a scene with Dennis Quaid. How cool is that? I was like, well, that's nice. But you know Sean McNamara? And so I was out of my mind.
Yeah.
Had I not done those minutes, that wouldn't have happened. Yep. He opened the door that I could get the script to Sean McNamara and his partner's team. So now nothing came of it except a huge breakthrough.
Yes.
A huge dose of hope. See, when you get a breakthrough, now get out of my way. All of a sudden, every little obstacle is going to minimize, fall off. And so whenever we get a breakthrough, we get that burst of energy, that burst of hope. And that's what keeps us going. So the strategy is to get you that hope, get you those breakthroughs. And if you do it consistently, they will show up.
Well, and your brain doesn't know the difference between what you're imagining, visioning, and your current state. So your hope is built up. Right? You got that breakthrough. And now it's like, this is going to happen. I'm going to get this movie. Right? And so you see that, and you see yourself walking on the red carpet, and you see yourself, seeing the credits scroll down the screen. Right? And your brain doesn't know any different than that. And so part of that manifesting the dreams is in that visualization. So feeling your dreams, and you go over that in here, and you've got to live it. You've got to feel it. You've got to be able to see it, and keeping that alive and fresh, I think, is so important to the process.
And Jolene, I didn't put this in the book, but on my phone,
all sorts of bonus material.
On my phone, I know it's hard to see, but that is my vision of the red carpet, because you just brought that up, the red carpet night when the Erwin brothers, if anyone's listening to this and knows the Erwin brothers, they made the movie I Can Only Imagine, and the new one about Kurt Warner, but I'm trying to get it in front of them. But that's my vision. I have a poster size picture of it, as well as my movie posters here in my, like the movie poster are nowhere, but they're here and they're in my head and they're on my phone. So I'm Joleneizing things.
Awesome. Good job. No, but good job on this book. I mean, absolutely incredible. Everybody's got to get it. You can get it at Amazon, and it's quick, easy read. It's also in Audible. I actually listened to it in the car. I had a multiple hour drive, and so I listened to it, and then I've got the hard copy. So let's see, is it ebook too? What platform?
Yeah, it's on Kindle as well.
Okay, cool. So it's an amazing read. Anything else you want to leave our listeners with? When I went through this, I created a big, crazy, ridiculous dream. That's what I call it. If it's not a big, crazy, ridiculous dream, it's more of a task. So why not go for that big, crazy, ridiculous dream? So I created a checklist. If you want, you can get this for free, but it's a checklist. And if you just go to 17minutes-to-your-dream.com/downloads, you also get my tracking form, the literal spreadsheet that I used. And you can see my minutes as an example. Plus there's one that's an Excel spreadsheet that you can fill out as well. So again, it's free. Just go to 17minutes-to-your-dream.com/downloads. And we'll put all of the links in the show notes so that people can just simply go right there. Very easy. Make it easy. Oh my goodness. Thank you, my friend, for sharing some time with me.
You are delightful.
This is what happens when you get two speakers together. We just keep going and going and going. My listeners are going, really? Seriously? I love it. It's wonderful having you, and I wish much success with the book and the movie. I can't wait to I hope I'm invited to the premiere.
I'll be telling the world. Don't worry. Don't worry.
I'm sure you will. All right. So blessings to you. Thank you, and have a great day. All right. Thank you.
Thanks.